We have some big water challenges right now, and in certain areas those challenges have risen to a level of crisis. My name is Margaret Garcia, and I'm an assistant professor here at Arizona State University in the School of Sustainable Engineering and the Built Environment. And my background is water resource engineering. So we train students to be civil engineers, environmental engineers, construction managers, and teach them not just the fundamentals of engineering those various components and looking at the system, but also communicate an understanding of sustainability, sustainable resource use, efficient design, and systems thinking, so they think through not just the immediate application of their design skills, but how the system's going to perform over time and what that life cycle is.
Phoenix is surrounded by the Sonoran Desert, one of the driest in the Americas. It gets an average of 3 to 15 inches of rainfall each year.
So we can do numerical experiments where we say, what if our precipitation patterns change and precipitation patterns in Phoenix tend more towards drought, where we have longer drought periods? Or what if we have more intense rainfall but less frequently? Climate change is making our water challenges more complex in a couple of ways. It's increasing the variability that we see in precipitation and therefore in stream flow and in our water supply sources. It's the challenge is on both ends. It's those dry periods, but it's also the wet periods. So the dry periods present a challenge because our storage systems were designed to handle drought periods that we saw in the historic data. As those either drought intensities or length of drought periods increase, those storage systems may be insufficient for our future droughts.
Hot smoke at the start point and also at the rock.
Longer periods of drought trigger wildfires. In 2013, Arizona was hit with one of the deadliest in U.S. history. 19 firefighters were killed. High winds worsened the situation, complicating the task for some 400 firefighters battling the blaze. That year, the temperature in Arizona reached 53 degrees Celsius.
But we also see the challenges on the wet side, where we have more intense rainfall or longer duration rainfall than we've seen in the past. And that could be a challenge both specifically for flood control and stormwater management, but at times can be a challenge for water supply because it can have some water quality impacts when we have intense rainfall causing erosion and runoff into water supply systems.
Heavy rain also affects central Phoenix. These images are from Apache Junction. Life-threatening flash flooding in 2013 escalated into a 6-foot rise in water, forcing evacuations by helicopter.
So I got interested in water resources actually as a high schooler. I was reading about the water challenges globally, and both in the US and then around the world, and I was really interested in how relatively simple infrastructure systems could improve water access. And so early in my career, I did a lot of work with Engineers Without Borders in small communities in Latin America and in Honduras and Peru, designing and doing construction management of small gravity-fed water supply systems with simple water treatment that could be locally built and locally maintained.
Lima, the capital of Peru, is also sitting on a desert. On the hillsides, giant nets pull water right out of the air. The fabric catches fog blown in by ocean breezes. Condensed water collects drop by drop into homemade gutters. What started as an experiment has become a windfall for this migrant community who would otherwise have to buy their water from a private company. The same technology has also been brought to the deserts of Morocco.
Ce projet résout énormément de problèmes en termes d'eau pour les gens. Parce que les gens avant devaient aller dans des puits qui pouvaient être très loin de là où ils sont. Et si en plus il y a de la sécheresse, il y a tellement peu d'eau, ça peut leur prendre jusqu'à 3 heures, 3 heures et demie par jour, et encore il faut qu'ils trouvent de l'eau. Et c'est les femmes et les enfants qui font cela.
The newly installed taps are also a huge time saver for local residents.
دوغ مضغق وانو كان ساعة هو ماني غندد ناقم طاق كرات رفايت كسر فايد هو مان راح تقدين أصبح عندها غير كان ندو داغن قيت أنا وتوغيون ندو داس وانو ناقمت
كنا كنمشيو كنديرو في المحاشا كنجيبو الماء ودابا ما كنجيبوش كنقدروا نمشيو للمدرسة مزيان وملي داروا لنا روبيني صافي الأمور ولات زوينة.
Both water shortages and flooding in China have led to the design of these sponge cities that can reuse up to 70% of rainwater. Cities absorb the water with permeable roads, rooftop gardens, and rainwater collection, like this building in Shanghai. Architect Guang Xiaoming says sponge cities look to nature for inspiration.
Nature has its own complete cycle. We should try to respect and not to destroy it. The core idea of future cities should be in accordance with the laws of nature. Most of the rainwater should be stored underneath rather than just being sent out of the sewers and to the oceans, the way most cities are designed. In the future, the underground system can better drain water and retain it. The water can then be used multiple times.
Climate change is making some of these water projects even more urgent.
So in drier regions of the world and in regions where we have substantial variability year to year in precipitation, water supply risk is real. And so places like the Western United States, where we experience significant droughts, we need to be prepared for those. And we're also seeing trends of aridification in some regions, so not just drought, but the dry regions getting drier. And that's a challenge because we haven't designed our system for that drier climate. On the infrastructure side, we have a number of components that help us manage variation in demands in time and in space. So we build storage into our system, like reservoirs. We use existing storage, like the groundwater. And so we can hold water either in those above ground reservoirs, or we can pump water from surface water into the ground to balance periods when there's a lot of flow and periods where there's not so much flow. We also have many elements of water conveyance and treatment. One of the important ones is not just water treatment for water use, but water treatment for reclamation, so that we can take wastewater and or stormwater and reclaim that for particularly non-potable uses like irrigation and parks and certain crops, so that we can reduce the amount of potable water supplies that we need and keep the system, parts of the system, operating in a circular manner so we don't have as much of a waste stream.
Phoenix averages less than 8 inches of rainfall a year and tops 38 degrees Celsius in the summer months. Last summer, 50 flights were grounded because it was just too hot. Yet Phoenix has become the 5th largest city in the U.S., and the demand for water is growing.
Phoenix is located in the Sonoran Desert, so it's a dry place, and it's also a rapidly growing place. There are trade-offs. The existing water sources for the city of Phoenix include local groundwater, surface water from the Salt and Verity rivers, and water from the Colorado River. And this pool of water supply sources isn't likely to expand in the future. It's likely to contract in the near future, particularly the Colorado River. How can Phoenix grow, or how has Phoenix grown? One of the ways that it has grown is by shifting water from one sector to another. So a lot of the urban growth in Phoenix, the water has been water rights and land transferring from the agricultural sector to the urban sectors.
Worldwide water consumption at individual households has gone down in part due to better information, advances in appliances, and water-saving technologies. Nonetheless, global population growth is significant.
I think the water challenges that we face are substantial, both with population growth and with climate change. But I think we have a lot of the tools to tackle them. It's a matter of understanding what's contextually appropriate in the location and pairing those technological solutions with the right types of policies so that we can operate those effectively, keep them reliable and sustain them in the long term, and also work with the community to keep demands at a reasonable level as supplies are tight.